Hey everybody, it's Mr. Wilson. Today we're going to talk about how to deal with movement in your video productions and also a bit about how to tighten up your edits. So I will often warn student groups to avoid movement, whether camera or movement by talent, if at all possible. That's because the more movement you have, the more complicated you make things and the more likely you are to have a problem. Now we're going to take a look at a student production. Now again, this is not a bad production. We learn from our mistakes. This is a 6th grade group, so they actually did a very good job. It's about respecting subs, and here's their establishing shot, and then they go to close-ups, back and forth, and they've got 5 close-ups there, and then back to their establishing shot. So that's really well done. They've got that ES scene of dialogue, and this shot we can see is very well framed. However, if we look at the very first establishing shot, this is not very well framed. That's okay, that's just one small mistake they had. But the big problem in this production starts here. Now we're going to have a student put a tack, or actually they put staples, onto the chair of the substitute teacher. So let's take a look at how they did it.
One, 2. Check me out right here, yo.
Yo, the sun don't shine forever, but as long as it's here, then we might as well shine together. Better now than never, business before pleasure. P. Diddy and the fam, who you know do it better. Yeah, right.
Okay, so that's him putting the tack on the chair. That is like a almost 30-second shot. Now you should know that I do not want shots on screen for longer than 10 seconds. That's one problem. But the other problem is, let's take a look at this again. Right when we start, here's the student coming in. There's nothing necessarily wrong with this shot right now. Oh, wait, what was that? That was some weird camera movement that we don't want. Whoop, whoop. Bad. My guess is they might have practiced this camera movement, which they should have done, and they were thinking that he was going to start moving, but he didn't start moving right away, and so they started to pan and then went back. That's ugly. So we should be able to see that that's ugly right off the bat. Not good. Okay, then he starts to walk, and up until that point, it's pretty good. When someone's moving, we want more space in front of them than behind. That's the same thing as nose room or looking space. Sometimes people call it moving room. So good, good, good. But then all of a sudden, whoop, we tilt down for some reason. And then back up. Not good. Okay, he stands still. Digs something out of his pocket. Okay, not too bad right now. Okay, now he has more room behind him. Doesn't look good anymore. Really doesn't look good. Okay, looks okay, but then, nope, now it looks really bad. Oh, now he's not even in frame anymore. Oh, there he is, and he runs out, and then we're still not tracking him. And then we see the seat with the tack in it. That's just really poorly done. It's okay because they've never done anything like this. We learn from our mistakes. But 2 more things that I want to make sure we understand. The second day here is something we should not do. We should not put in title cards that say the next day or an hour later or anything like that, because that's weak storytelling. Instead, we add a transition, we have students wearing different clothes, and our audience is smart enough to understand that it's a different day. If we put in a transition, our audience is smart enough to understand that a transition means something else. We've changed time or we've changed place. That's what a transition is, moving from one thing to another. The other thing is that we should not use copyrighted music. This group used copyrighted music, and how can I tell? It's because it has lyrics in it. Almost any song with lyrics is copyrighted. Any song that you know from the radio is copyrighted, and we do not use copyrighted music unless it's perfect for our production, which this was not, and we've also written a copyright letter to ask for permission. So otherwise you should use free play music and not copyrighted music. So 2 things to avoid that this group did also is do not have the next day, 5 minutes later, an hour later, any title card saying that, and do not use copyrighted music. First, let's look at how that type of shot should be framed. A person's walking across the classroom We want to follow him smoothly if we're going to have camera movement, and we're going to keep that person with more room in front of him than behind him. So we're going to try to keep more room in front of him, and we're going to try to pan smoothly and consistently. He drops the tack on the chair, looks evil, and exits. Okay, that is a 20-second, almost 20-second clip. So that's a good shot as far as the framing. However, we don't want anything on screen for longer than 10 seconds. And, as your requirements state, no matter how short a scene is, you never want to have only one shot. So we need to figure out how to break up this sequence, how to add more shots, and how to make sure that no shot is on screen for longer than 10 seconds. So how do we do that? Well, I went out and did this myself, and I'm going to show you what I did in order to make it a little bit better. We don't want to have camera movement if we can help it. So I have all static shots here. It conveys the same thing, no shots on screen for more than 10 seconds. The camera is not moving, and we don't have poor framing. So look at what I've done. So that's what I did. Let's take a look at it again. So I walk into the frame, into the classroom, I look evil, I pull out the tack, and here's one way to split things up. What am I looking at? They had the same shot. We don't know what he was looking at, but boom, insert shot. It's a tack in my hand. Then we go to back to me, and I walk out of frame. The camera has not moved. Then we go to the shot of the teacher's chair. I walk in, put the tack down, look evil, and then I just simply walk out of the frame, and we go to the shot of the tack. So there's no camera movement. There's no possibility of bad shots there. If you do not have camera movement, there's really no reason to have camera movement in that sequence that they did. So they only had the one shot. I've split it up so I have 4 different shots, okay? Actually even more, because I've got this shot of me going into the room. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 shots, and then we go to the tack on the seat. So that's 6, but they had the insert shot of the tack on the seat too. I look ridiculous, I know. Okay, so we're going to take a look at it again, because actually it's okay, but it needs to be way tightened up. I don't know if anyone noticed this. So let's take a look at this. No, that doesn't look good at all, does it? How's the continuity on that? Bad. Okay, we're going to look at it again. Here I'm opening the door. I'm almost in, and then we cut to this, and the door's almost completely closed. Yuck. Okay, so how do we fix that? I'm going to go and put my cursor down at this edit point, and you'll see I get this trim tool, right? So depending on which way that the film strip is pointing, I can trim one of the clips. Now the really cool thing about Final Cut is when I click my mouse, look what happens. Up in this upper right hand box, I see the last frame of the previous clip and the first frame of the following clip. And so once I click that down, I can see, no, that's not good at all. I can see how bad that continuity is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim this to the left, which is only going to change my first clip. We can see that, right? So I'm going to go, let's right about here. I'm going to want to stop it right there, but I'm going to need to then trim my second clip. So I'm going to move my cursor a little bit so I'm trimming that second clip now, and now I'm going to move it forward to about where it looks like it matches well. So right about, let's see, maybe a little bit more about here. That looks good to me. So let's see whether that works, that continuity. Much better. That's a much better edit. Now I'm going to undo it. Do you see how ugly that was? We go to me opening the door's open, and then we cut to me and the door is closed. So now I'm just going to go to redo that trim, and we're going to take a look at it again. Much better, much better. Now I walk in, I look at this tack in my hand, but once I look at that tack, that's when I need to cut to the insert shot, but I don't right away. We want to tighten all of these edits up. So when you have a rough cut, this was a rough cut, and now I'm going through it and tightening it up. So I look at the tack right there. I'm going to stop. Here is my playhead, this red part right here, and I'm going to stop right where I think I need to cut. Right there. I've stopped moving and my hand is out. That's where I want to be. Now I'm going to show you something else. Over here, this, and if we hold our cursor there, it'll show us that this turns on and off snapping. If it's not blue, it's off. If it's blue, it's on. So the great thing about this is I'm going to put my trim tool right here, and now when I move it to the left, it will snap right to my playhead. Bang, right there. That's exactly where I want it to be. Now let's take a look at this edit. Good, but again, we cut back to me, and I'm not looking up right away. I want to look up right away. So right before I start to look up, I'm going to go back frame by frame, right there. Again, right there, snapping is on. I'm going to hold my tool here, my trim tool, I'm going to click, and I'm going to drag to the right, and it's going to snap right to that position. Okay, so let's take a look at that little sequence with that insert shot. Okay, that edit is not good. I walk out of frame and then it stays on this shot for too long, and then we cut to this shot and I'm not in it, so we're going to tighten that up. I'm going to go down here, I'm going to put my playhead right to where I walk out of frame. Again, I'm going to go frame by frame, and right when I'm completely out of frame, I'm going to stop. Look at all this that I'm going to trim off. All of that stuff. I don't need any of that. Boom, it's gone. Now I'm going to come to this clip and I'm going to do the same thing. Drag my playhead to where, right before I come in, one frame at a time, put it back, and then right before I enter the frame, I'm going to put my cursor down here. I'm going to click. I'm going to drag it to the right. Boom. Now this is going to be a much tighter edit. So now this is much tighter. I walk out of frame, I walk in frame. I put my tack down, I walk out of frame. I want my movements to be quick so that we don't have a lot of time seeing things that we don't want to see. And again, I've stopped it right here, but look at all this stuff here. This is more footage of just this chair sitting here. I don't need to see this right here. I don't need that. So as soon as I'm out of frame, one frame at a time, creeping out, there it is. I'm going to put my trim tool down here and boom, trim all that off. And then we go to the insert shot of the tack. So now that it's much tighter, let's take a look at it. Okay, now it'll look much better obviously with music behind it, but we're also going to talk really quickly about room tone and audio, because right now I don't have the room tone that we're listening to is not the actual room tone. It's very continuous. Okay, if we listen to that, it's very continuous. Down here, this is what I've got my room tone from, one of my shots. If I turn up the volume on all these shots, which I haven't done. Okay, now that I've turned up the volume on all these clips, you're going to hear how horrible it is because the room tone on each of these shots sounds completely different. Now let's take a listen to what it sounds like with the actual room tone on all of these. Okay, so I hope you understand that discontinuity of the audio is really distracting and takes us, again, that's something that takes us out of the moment. So what I've done is I've just got a regular room tone from a shot where nothing was happening, and I had the quietest room tone, and I turned everything else down. So that's one thing you might want to think about. Room tone is not something that we always have to deal with, but room tone is something that you possibly might want to get just like 30 seconds of room tone in whatever location you're shooting, so that you have that in order to paste it over anything. So if you have these really bad audio jump cuts, basically like this, that's horrible. So when we turn this down, and especially it's just this clip that has that really bad room tone, and we have the other room tone behind it, this continuous room tone, it's not going to be much smoother. Much better, much better. So that's how I shot this. And also, here's another thing. I don't need this shot of walking into the doorway. I just wanted to show you how awesome it is to put your trim tool at that edit point and click and have the last frame of the previous clip, the first frame of the next clip, so you can really match up those edits. As we can see here, I'm walking into the door just about the exact point where I'm entering the door in the other clip. So that's a good way to get perfect continuity when you're trying to get a shot like that. But really, in reality, even though this is a great edit, that's a great edit except for that noise, so I'll do it again. So that's a great edit, but even though it's a great edit, that doesn't mean we need it. We would want to start with just this person walking into the door. There's no reason to see them from the other side of the door. Alright, so tighten up your edits. Don't have too much camera movement. Maybe think about room tone in your upcoming productions. Good luck.